Welcome to the deep dive. Look, if you're trying to keep up with crypto, you know it's a lot. Especially the big ecosystems, the jargon, the tech diagrams that look like, I don't know, spaghetti. Getting a clear picture, it can feel pretty overwhelming.
Oh, absolutely. And BNB chain is definitely one of those big complex ones. It's grown so much from just being, the original Binance coin.
Exactly. So today, we're going to try and cut through some of that noise, our mission. Give you a real shortcut to understanding BNB chain and its token, BNB.
Yeah.
We're using a simple 6-point plan, looking at the sources to figure out the what, the how, and yeah, the really important trade-offs involved.
And make no mistake, BNB chain is huge. It's one of the biggest layer ones out there, super active. Started as that Binance coin ICO back in 2017, sure, but now it's all about build and build BNB. It's a whole infrastructure project now.
Right. Let's just jump straight in then. Okay, point one, the problem. Every good project starts by fixing something, right? So what was the big pain point BNB chain was built to tackle? Especially thinking back to like 2020 and that whole DeFi summer craziness.
Yeah, the big problem was what people call the blockchain trilemma. Ethereum was king, secure, decentralized, but it was choking. The network got incredibly congested. People were fighting over block space, causing these insane gas wars.
Oh, I remember those. Yeah. You'd try to do something simple, maybe claim a few bucks in DeFi rewards or mint an NFT. And the transaction fee, the gas, could easily cost more than what you were even doing. It felt broken, honestly.
Totally broken for the average person. We saw fees jumping into the tens, even hundreds of dollars for certain actions. It basically priced out whole categories of apps. Think about GameFi, play-to-earn games, or any kind of frequent DeFi trading. It just wasn't economical unless you were a whale.
So the main network was clogged, slow, expensive. BNB Chain basically said, okay, we need a faster, cheaper way, but crucially one that felt familiar.
Exactly, that's the core of it. The launch of Binance Smart Chain, BSC, as it was known then, was a really pragmatic move. It was built specifically to solve that speed and cost problem, offering EVM compatibility so Ethereum devs could easily switch over. It was a direct answer to Ethereum's growing pains.
Okay, let's move to the second point. The idea. How can we picture this simply? The sources suggest an analogy. If you think of something like Ethereum as, say, a historic downtown area, lots of history, very secure maybe, but crowded, slow traffic, expensive tolls, what's BNB chain in that picture?
BNB Chain is like the brand new high-speed commuter rail.
Yeah.
Super streamlined. It gets you where you need to go incredibly fast. It's cheap. It runs on time. But, you're relying on the company that runs the railway.
Ah, okay. That immediately flags the big trade-off, doesn't it? They deliberately sacrifice some of that architectural decentralization, that downtown history, for speed and low cost. So who are they aiming for with this approach? What's the main goal?
The goal is just massive, massive scale. They talk about this vision called MetaFi, and the sources are pretty clear. The aim is to build the infrastructure needed to bring the next billion users into Web3. That's the target.
A billion users. Wow.
Yeah. And to do that, the underlying tech needs to be almost invisible, like the internet. It has to be so cheap and so fast that you, the user, just don't even think about gas fees. It just works.
So it's a philosophy focused on utility, on how many people can actually use the network rather than, say, achieving perfect decentralization above all else.
Precisely. Function over form, you could say.
All right, let's get into the how it works. Point three, the sources talk about this one BNB strategy, simplifying the architecture. It sounds like there are three main parts working together. Let's start with the main engine, the layer one.
All right, the core engine is the BNB Smart Chain, or BSC. That's the layer one. And its killer feature, as we mentioned, is being EVM compatible, Ethereum virtual machine, which basically means any developer used to building on Ethereum can pretty much just copy their code over to BSC and it'll work with maybe minor tweaks. Big advantage.
Okay, EVM compatibility is key. But how does it get that speed? The speed that solves the original problem. It's not magic, right? There's a specific mechanism.
No, not magic. It's engineered. It comes down to the consensus mechanism I use. Proof of staked authority, POSA. The speed comes directly from having a much smaller, more controlled set of validators who approve transactions. So while Ethereum has over 1 million validators now, PSA on BSC operates with a much smaller active set. It was initially 21. Now it's usually somewhere between 21 and 45, though they plan to increase it a bit.
Okay, wait. Only 21 to 45 validators making the decisions compared to Ethereum's million.
Yeah.
That's a huge difference. So that small group can agree really quickly, leading to fast transactions. The sources say something like under 2 seconds. like 1.875 seconds.
Exactly. That small number lets them reach consensus super fast, hence the quick block times and finality. Around 1.875 seconds is right.
And this feels like the crucial point that Limited set is both the source of the speed and the source of the main criticism, the centralization risk.
You've hit the nail on the head. That's the core trade-off.
Right.
The speed is enabled by the small validator set, but it also introduces what critics call a serious systemic risk. If you only need, say, 15 or 20 entities to agree to control the chain, governance becomes much easier to influence, potentially. And the influence of large players, like the affiliated exchange, becomes a major factor.
Right. Okay, we'll come back to risks. What about the next layer, the speed booster?
Yeah. That's BNB. It's their layer 2 scaling solution. It uses optimistic rollups, technically. It's built using the OP stack, same as Optimism on Ethereum. The idea is to handle tons of transactions off the main BSC chain, bundle them up, and then just post a summary back to layer 1. This lets it handle really high volumes. The sources mentioned figures up to like 4,500 transactions per second, much higher than the L1.
And this layer 2, BNB, that's where you'd likely see things like those high-frequency games or maybe lots of microtransactions, keeping the main BSC chain less congested.
Exactly. It takes the load off BSC for specific high-throughput applications, keeping fees super, super low there.
Okay, L1 engine, BSC, L2 booster, OPMB. What's the third piece of 1BNB? Storage.
Correct. Greenfield. That's their decentralized storage layer. Think of it like a decentralized Dropbox or Google Drive, but built into the BNB ecosystem. It's really important because decentralized apps, DApps, need a place to store bigger chunks of data permanently and decentrally, like NFT images or metadata, maybe website data, archives, stuff that doesn't fit neatly onto the blockchain itself. Greenfield provides that piece.
Okay, that makes sense. We've got the how. Now, let's get to point 4, user benefits. The so what for you, the listener. The numbers show millions of people use this thing daily. Why? What's the practical pull?
Well, it really boils down to two main things we've touched on: cost and just sheer utility. First, cost effectiveness. Remember those crazy Ethereum gas fees? On the main BNB smart chain, BSC, the average transaction fee is usually around, what, 4 cents? Maybe less sometimes.
4 cents versus potentially tens or hundreds of dollars. Okay, that's already a massive difference.
Huge difference. But then, if you use BNB, that layer 2, the cost drops even more dramatically. We're talking fractions of a cent, less than 0.0011 per transaction often.
Wow. Okay, less than a tenth of a penny. You could do hundreds, maybe thousands of transactions for $1. That completely changes what's possible for apps.
It totally transforms the economics, yeah. Suddenly, microtransactions, tipping, frequent game actions, it all becomes feasible. And the second big benefit is scale. The network proves it can handle the load. Sources mention it processing over 9.9 million transactions in a single day regularly and supporting millions of daily active addresses. That kind of usage speaks for itself compared to many other chains.
Okay, cost and scale.
No.
Now let's talk about the BNB token itself. It's not just gas money, right? Its connection to the Binance exchange gives it extra juice.
Definitely. The BNB token has multiple uses. Yes, you absolutely need it to pay for gas for any transaction on BSC or BNB. That's fundamental. But it also plugs directly into the centralized finance world via Binance. If you hold BNB and use it to pay trading fees on the Binance exchange, you get a pretty hefty discount, 25%.
That 25% discount is a big deal. It creates this strong incentive loop, doesn't it? Linking activity in the decentralized chain back to benefits on the biggest centralized exchange.
It's a very powerful flywheel effect, and it goes beyond just trading discounts. The sources also point out real-world payment integrations. Apparently, BNB is accepted for payments in over 60 countries through various partnerships. They mention one with Rackbank, for example. So you've got this blend: gas for DeFi, discounts for CeFi trading, and even real-world spending potential. That's a compelling package for a lot of users.
All right, we've seen the benefits, the speed, the low cost. But we know it comes from that deliberate trade-off we discussed. So point 5, risks and criticisms. We have to shift gears and look at the downsides, the critiques found in the sources.
Yeah, absolutely. And the number one risk, the elephant in the room, is centralization. It comes back to that POSA consensus mechanism. Critics are pretty blunt about it, relying on just 21 to 45 active validators. That's seen as a serious systemic risk. It's a potential point of failure or governance capture that looks very different from networks with, hundreds of thousands or a million plus validators like Ethereum.
So going back to our analogy, If BNB chain is the high-speed train, the criticism is basically who owns the tracks, who controls the signals.
Hmm.
Can that small group of validators potentially influenced by the exchange decide to censor transactions, change the rules, or act in ways that benefit them over the users? Is that the fear?
That captures the core fear perfectly. That limited validator set inherently means less censorship resistance compared to more decentralized networks. That's the purest argument against it.
And then there's the connection to Binance itself, the reputational baggage. We can't really ignore that history, can we?
No, you can't. That close affiliation is a double-edged sword. It brought massive resources and initial users, definitely, but it also brings the history of regulatory scrutiny. The sources explicitly mention that huge 2023 settlement with the U.S. Department of Justice, the $4.3 billion fine, and the founders stepping down. That history definitely impacts how institutions and even some users perceive the chain's trustworthiness and long-term stability.
Yeah, that makes sense. But the sources mentioned something interesting here, almost a paradox regarding regulation. While many other blockchains are still kind of waiting in limbo, uncertain about regulations, especially in the U.S., the fact that Binance and BNB chain went through that massive settlement, could that actually be an advantage now?
It's a fascinating point, right? The regulatory paradox. The idea is that by settling those major cases, paying the fines, and sort of clearing the air with that dismissal potentially coming in May 2025, they might actually offer more clarity than rivals. For a big institution looking to invest or build, dealing with a known past, even a problematic one that's been resolved, might feel safer than dealing with the unknown future regulatory actions that could hit other chains. It removes some uncertainty.
Right. Known history versus maybe a regulatory storm cloud still gathering elsewhere. Interesting angle. Okay, that brings us to our final point, number 6, the summary. If you need that quick 1 or 2 sentence takeaway from all this, here's our distillation from the sources. BNB chain is an EVM-compatible ecosystem, notable for its token's deflating supply, that really succeeded in delivering high speed and super low transaction costs to millions. It achieved this by making a conscious trade-off in its level of decentralization and by effectively leveraging the huge resources and user base of its affiliated exchange, Binance.
Well put. And maybe a final thought for you, the listener, to chew on, based on their roadmap. BNB Chain has really ambitious plans. They're talking about achieving speeds like centralized exchanges, aiming for over 20,000 transactions per second. Plus, adding things like native privacy features, even AI integration. So the big question is, can a system that started so closely tied to a centralized entity truly evolve into the kind of fully secure, decentralized standard that many in Web3 are looking for? Or will its origins always, in some way, define its limits and its perception?
That's a great question. A real test case playing out right now between centralization's efficiency and decentralization's ideals. Well, thank you for walking us through all that. Hopefully breaking it down like this gives everyone listening a much clearer view of the BNB chain ecosystem. And hey, if you're enjoying how we break down these complex projects into simple pieces and want more reviews just like this, make sure you subscribe to our channel, CryptoBox. We do all the complex research so you don't have to.